All right, welcome everyone to today's webinar on inventory management. We do have two different webinars. One is called inventory management, one is called inventory maintenance. So it is two separate webinars, just want to clarify that. In today's webinar for inventory management, I'm going to talk about your on-hand counts and reorder points. We're also going to go over purchase orders and inventory transactions of receiving and returning. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And we're first going to go over what is your on-hand count and reorder points. Okay, so I'm going to go into File Inventory, and you can do this with frames, or maybe you keep an inventory of cases or cords or contact lenses. I always like to use frames as the example because that's probably the most common use inventory item I want to say that we keep an inventory of. So I'm going to go into frames here, and I'm going to pull up two particular frames that I have here. So this frame, for example, my on-hand count for this frame is currently telling me I have 0. Okay, so if you set up your on-hand counts, the system will keep track of your inventory of how many you have of that frame, for example. So I have 0 of this frame at the moment. Now I set up a reorder point for this particular frame, and I'm going to go into the actual frame window here. And down here at the bottom in my locations tab, if I scroll over here, I'm going to find a column here called reorder point and max inventory. And these columns work together. So what we're putting in here is basically saying, when I have 0 of this frame, I want the system to automatically pick up that I need to order 1, because I want to always have 1 of the frame on hand. Okay, so for you it could be 1, maybe you want to have 2. Okay, or maybe you want your reorder point to say, when I have 1, I want to reorder 1, or I want to reorder 2. So you can set this up to whatever is convenient for you based on how many you want to have on hand. So when we create our purchase orders, which is what we're going to go into next, you might see that the reorder items are going to come up in the purchase order automatically. So I just want to show you where that comes from and how it gets to the purchase order. Okay, so my reorder point is to order 1 when I have 0 on hand, and I have 0 of this frame. So when I go into my purchase order, this is going to pull up automatically for me as a reorder. Okay. So let's go into creating purchase orders. We're going to go into that same inventory there, file inventory, and we're going to go into purchase orders. Okay. And I'm just going to make this window bigger here. That way you can see all of the details. So the very top section of this window here is just going to be the information for the purchase order once we make it. So right now it is in blank, okay, and we'll see that once we create the purchase order, this information is going to fill in, okay. This is also where you're going to go over here on the top right-hand corner if you need to search for a purchase order that you've already created, okay. We haven't created any yet, so I'll show you how to do that once we're done creating our first purchase order here. So I'm going to go in here into the supplier tab. That's where it defaults to. And I'm going to select the supplier that I'm going to order from. Okay. So previous to the webinar today, I've created a few orders. And I'm going to show you those orders here. So for example, I have this order here for my patient. He ordered a Burberry frame with some lenses here, single vision, polycarbonate transitions, gray, and this anti-reflective coating. Now, the frame that my patient wanted, I don't have it on hand So I have to go ahead and order this frame. And the system is going to recognize that here under the frame area, the source of the frame is going to say order. Okay? And I've created a few orders besides this one here. That way you guys can see that example. Whenever you have a source on your order of order, whether it be for a frame or maybe for contact lenses, you can also do this for contact lenses, and you go into your purchase order, you're going to select your supplier here. So I'm going to say I need to order some frames from Luxottica. And I'm going to go under items, and here under items I'm going to add what items I need to order from Luxottica. So the purchase order is basically you creating the record of what you ordered. Okay, there's a few ways that you can add items in here into the purchase order. One is this field here where it says order number. So if you have the order number, if maybe you printed out a lab copy for the day for your patient, you can easily find the order number in there and you can type that in and add that order. Or if you have a barcode scanner, you can easily scan the barcode on the lab copy that you printed, and that will pull up that order as well. Okay? So you can use that order field. Now you can also use the auto create button here. The auto create button is going to search for orders for a specific date range that you put in. And I'm going to leave my date range at today. I made, like I said, a few orders, that way you guys can see them. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that in. Okay, so you will see the 3 orders that I've made today that have a source of order on them. So I have to order these 3 frames from Luxottica. Now, in addition to that, you're seeing the reorder point, which is what I mentioned first. For example, here is that Bulgari frame that I said I had a on hand of 0, and whenever my on hand of 0 is there, it's going to say I'm going to order 1. So there is my reorder point coming up. Same thing here for this coach frame. So you're going to see the source of order, the source of reorder point. Now, in addition to these 2 sources, I can also manually add anything else that I may need. So I'm ordering for Luxottica, and maybe we want to bring back a frame that sells very well in the office, but we don't have it right now, and we're just going to take advantage, or we're just going to go ahead and order from Luxottica now. Let's go ahead and order that frame that we haven't had in a while. So you can manually add anything else by going in here into frames, for example, and I can go into Luxottica. Notice that I don't get anything else but Luxottica, and that is because that is a supplier that I've selected. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to order anything from, let's say, Marchand or Safilo or any other of my manufacturers. So here I can go through my frames, and I can go ahead and add anything else that I want to this purchase order. Okay, looking for one here. Let's say I want to order another one of these. Let me find a better example. Give me 1 second. Let's say I want to order another one of these frames here. I'm trying to find one that's at 0. And I've already kind of used all of them. All right, so it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and pick one. Pick one here. I'm going to say I'm going to order another one of these. Okay, so once you select that, you're going to see that the user is going to be what shows up under the source, so you can manually add any additional items to the purchase order. Okay, so you have a source of order that's going to come in automatically using that auto create button, or you can go ahead and manually add the order number this way. You're going to pull in your reorder points, and then you can manually add anything else. Now, if you made a mistake, maybe this wasn't the frame I made a mistake, I can easily highlight that line. As you can see, there is an arrow pointing to it, and I can click on remove at the top, and it's going to remove it from that purchase order. Same thing with maybe I don't want to reorder these right now. I can go ahead and remove them. Okay? So this is my purchase order. Once I've added all of my items here to my purchase order, I'm going to say create PO down at the bottom. This is going to then at the top, as you can see, give me my purchase order ID, the location that I'm logged into, my supplier, the date, and the status of open, and also it's recording the employee I'm logged in as. Okay. You're also going to see this window here. That's your actual purchase order. Okay, with all of the information from the window here, and there's 2 pages. So if you're wondering where the other frames are, it's a second page that's there. And you can go ahead and print this out right from here. If you wanted to print this out and maybe fax it over, or maybe use it as a reference when you call in the order to place your order, or you can email it if you like. So this is going to be your purchase order. I'm going to go ahead and close this window, and our purchase order here again is at a status of open. If you want to maybe put in a reference number after you order it, you know, they give you a reference number for your order. You can easily put that in here into this field. And then you have a section for notes. So maybe you can put, for example, ordered with the person that you spoke to. All right. So we are done here creating our purchase order. I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And I'm going to go back into purchase orders here and show you how you can pull up purchase orders that have already been created. Okay, so I'm back here in the purchase order window, and if I wanted to search for that purchase order that we just did, I'm going to go up here on the top right hand corner and click on search. I will be able to use any of this criteria at the top to pull up the purchase order that we just did. Now, it's very easy to find because it is in status of open, still pending for me to receive it. So I will be able to see it right down here. So here is the purchase order we just created. I can go ahead and select it, and it will bring that information back up for me, and I can verify that again. Okay, so those are our purchase orders. If you made a mistake, maybe the purchase order is wrong, you can go ahead and click on edit the purchase order and make any changes. Maybe here to your reorder point you want 2. I can go ahead and change the quantity. Okay, I'll bring that back to 1. If you're not going to order this, maybe you don't want this purchase order at all, you do have a delete button here where you can delete the purchase order. All right, so we've gone over on-hand counts where you can see those. We've gone over the reorder points and where you can set those up. We've gone over creating our purchase order. The next thing I'm going to go over is going to be receiving. Actually, I apologize. Before going into the receiving, I'm going to create another purchase order that I have, for example, for you for contact lenses. So you can do this for frames. Let's say if you keep an inventory of contact lenses, or you need to order contact lenses for your patient for one of your orders for today, you can also do this for contact lenses. So my supplier for my contact lenses is ABB. So I'm going to select that as a supplier. I'm going to go into items, and again, I can either type in the order number or scan the lab copy if I printed that out, and it will bring that in. Or I can use the auto create button. So I'm going to search for the orders for contacts that come from ABB for today's date, and it's going to pull all of those up for me. Notice that the source again is order. It's going to tell me how many I need. It's going to give me all of my patient information. Okay, just like it did when we created the purchase order for the frame, you're also going to see all of the details here under item description. And you can also go into contact lenses and add any additional items you might want to add to this purchase order. Okay, so here's my purchase order for contact lenses. Some of you might have lens on demand. And if you have lens on demand, in order for you to order these contact lenses with lens on demand, you're going to do this workflow here of creating your purchase order. So we'll go ahead and create that. And then there's additional steps for you guys placing this order electronically with lens on demand or CLX. You're going to see those buttons down here at the bottom, and that's actually what you're going to click on to send the communication of the order for your contact lenses. And if you want more details on that, we do have some webinars on how to order with LOD, with Lens on Demand. So if you want to go ahead and join us for those, we should have one coming up now for the month of April. Okay, and that will give you full detail on how to order your contact lenses with LOD. All right, so I've created my purchase order here for the contact lenses. The status of that is open. I'll put in the reference number that they gave me when I called that in, because I called it into ABB. And I ordered that with Jane at ABB. All right, so just a little note, that way I know. I'm going to close it and I'll save that. And the next thing that we're going to go over is receiving. So now that we've placed our order with ABB and we've placed our order with Lazada, they're going to send us a shipment. And when we receive those items, we're going to inspect them, of course, very important, make sure that we've received what we ordered. So we're going to go into File Inventory, Transactions, and we can go into Receiving. Okay, and here is our receiving window. So since I'm receiving items that are on a purchase order that I created, this is going to be very easy for me because I don't have to go up here and fill out who I'm receiving from and then add all of the items or anything like that. I'm going to go into Select PO and find the purchase order that I've made. Okay, so here is the one for contact lenses. I'm going to go ahead and select it. And by selecting that purchase order, you're going to see that all of that information from the purchase order is going to fill in here for me. Okay, you're also going to see that the supplier filled in as well. Okay, so we're going to verify what we've received here. I'm going to scroll over. I'm going to see my purchase order number, the date that I ordered it, the order numbers based on these orders that were created. I'm going to see how many of that I have on hand, and I'm going to see how many I ordered. So I'm going to verify here that I received it. So I ordered 2 here. I'm going to go into this column, and I'm going to say I received 2. I received 2. I received 4. I received 4. And here, I only received 1 because the other 2 were on back order. Okay, so I'm going to put in that I received 1. Okay, and it's going to tell me that remaining, I still need 3. Okay, and here I'm going to say I receive 3. Okay, since there are some items remaining to satisfy what was added or what was ordered here in this purchase order, it's still going to leave this purchase order at a status of partial, that you've partially received the items on there. There's still some items pending. So I will be able to come back, let's say maybe 2 or 3 weeks later when I receive the 2 boxes that are missing here. I'll be able to pull up this purchase order again in the receiving and receive the remaining items. Okay. In addition to that, here in the receiving window, you can go ahead and update your cost. As you can see, I have costs listed for some of these, and for some of them I don't. So this is a good place to update that. It saves it to your inventory list for these contact lenses, for example. So if maybe now you know what your costs are, you didn't put them in before, you can go ahead and update that here. Or maybe if your cost went up, now it's not $26, now maybe they're $27. You can go ahead and do that through here. And that will update to your inventory list for these contact lenses. Okay. You're also going to be able, in here in this window, click on the details button at the bottom, and you can go into the actual details for that particular line that is selected. You have a section at the top to put in invoice date if you received an invoice with your items. So you can fill out some information up there. You also have some fields to enter any shipping amounts that were charged, tax, or any other amounts, and you'll get a total amount there. And then you have a section for notes. So now that I've received this, very important, I'm going to update my on-hand. Okay, so this is what's going to record that you've received these things from this purchase order. And if they belong to an order, it will go ahead and apply that to the order. That way your order doesn't say order anymore. It will just show a source of inventory, basically recording that you've received it and you've satisfied what you needed for that order. So we'll give that a moment here to update. All right, so we've updated our on-hand there. The next thing that we're going to go over is returning. So file inventory transactions returned is what's going to basically record anything that we need to return back to the manufacturer. So maybe you have some discontinued frames, for example. We're going to go into the returns here. I'm going to make this window a little bigger for you guys to see. And in the return here, notice that it looks very similar to the receiving window that we were just in, just that there is no purchase order button, of course. Okay, so in this window, what we're going to put in is the items that we're going to return to our manufacturer, maybe because there's some discontinued frames, or maybe because it broke and I need a credit for it. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to select a supplier. Okay, you can either scan a barcode or type in a UPC number, or you can go and do this manually and go into any of the buttons that are available here. So I'm going to do an example for frames, and you can search for the items through your list here. Now, it's a little easier if you have a UPC or a barcode to scan, because you can then just easily scan those barcodes and it will add them here. And I'm sorry, I selected the wrong supplier. Okay, so I'm just going to scan the frames that I'm going to return. There's the frames I'm going to return. You're going to see your on-hand count for those frames, and you're going to put in how many you're going to return. You have a section up at the top to put any additional information. So maybe I have an RMA number. I can put that in there. I also have a section for notes. Okay, once I have completed that and I put in how many I'm returning, I'm going to go ahead and update my on-hand count down at the bottom. Very, very important because that is what's going to remove that from your on-hand. Okay, you'll notice that the notes that I put in are also going to show over here on the right-hand side. I'm going to close that and I'm going to go back into here, transactions, file inventory transactions. After you've done your receiving and your returns, you can always go back and pull in those receivings or returns that you have done. So instead of me starting here, just like we did before, we went to select purchase order, I'm going to go into the search on the top right-hand corner, and I'm going to go ahead and search for the receiving inventory I've already done. So that was done today. Here it is. Okay, and I still had some items on here. So once I receive those items, I'm going to go back into File Inventory Transactions Receiving. I can go and select the purchase order again. That is still going to be at a status here of partial because I didn't receive everything on it. There is the items that I was still pending, and I can go ahead and put in that I received them. Again, at the top, any information you want to go ahead and put in. And make sure that you update your on-hand. All right, so we've gone over everything here under inventory management. We went over your on-hand count and reorder points, how to create those purchase orders and search for purchase orders that have already been created. We went over transactions of receiving and returns. So I'm going to do the Q&A. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to find that question section, and I'll go over anything you guys may have for me today.